Hello everyone, this is Ian, and still a bit sick, but this is my makeup week, considering I was out for about, a week, and I missed all the week 3 games and half of week 4 was done, so I've gotten week 3 power rankings out, I've gotten a trades and FAs video out, and then we got the week 4 power rankings coming out right now, and this is a week I'm actually really excited for because we got to see how the changes to the team. Oh God, I was on the wrong slide, wasn't I? Yeah, I was. Well, we got to see how the FAs and trades worked out for each team, and yeah, so we'll see how this. We'll see how they truly affect the teams going forward, and we'll see if this does anything dramatically to help the teams rise, fall, whatever. I feel like I kind of butchered this intro after the slide thing. Anyway, we'll just move on to the number 16, who you already know is the Real Magikarp, and I'm not saying that because of you already know Arf lost again. I meant you already know because I legitimately just showed you. So, number 16 is Arf and the Real Magikarp. This was a lot more of a slower pace loss for Arf. Sometimes they come in really fast and offensive, L5 last week just set everything up for a Zygarde sweep kind of early on. This one was a lot slower. Yeah. So Ferrothorn was played relatively well. The Ditto was used to keep Mega Kangaskhan out. I'm talking about the plus sides of ARF this week. Mega Altaria could have been a really good check to Hydreigon, especially considering I believe it was Spexed. But, it was Spexed. And I think ARF had a more offensive build of Altaria. So that thing took 45% on the switch into a Dark Pulse, and Mega Altaria was just never useful again after that. I feel like this game was just Arf's walls got broken when Ace wanted them to. Ace was able to play relatively defensively for a lot of the match. Whenever Ace got in Mega Kang, it got a kill. It had his only switch in was Gligar, and considering Mega Kangaskhan gets Ice Beam, and what happened to Gligar later on in the match, Gligar was not a safe switch in to Mega Kang anyway. So the combination of the dual priority and fake out and sucker punch plus secret power kind of just put a big hole in Arf's team. And then the coverage move of Fire Blast just dented Ferrothorn, which was the real only switch into that thing. So, yeah. And then came the part of the match where Gligar did not have U-turn. So Gothitelle just came in, trapped it, set up to +6 on it, knocked it out. Granted, Victini came in, which I'm pretty sure was banded afterwards, and picked up its kill. But yeah, Gothitelle just kind of came in, I think unnecessarily set up to +6, considering it just died afterwards, but Noah had no way of knowing. Did I just call him Noah? His name's Ace. My bad. I was thinking about something else. Ace. Oh, God. had no way of knowing that it was Bandit Victini at the time, so there was no way to, know that he was just going to immediately get one shot afterwards. And I feel like our offensively got worn down. Like a lot of his offensive options, like Mega Altaria and Thunderous, got worn down very often. His only way to reverse Sweep Ace was with his own Mega Kangaskhan, and since he still had Gigalith, which could take 2 hits, and the double priority of Mega Kang, that really wasn't an option. Defensively, his switch-ins were always kept low, and I think Ace just really controlled the momentum of this match. Not as bad of a loss on Arf's part, though, as we've seen in the past, so I think he is slowly improving. I just think the no U-turn on Gligar really cost him, because he could have gotten Victini in. Bandit V Create got him a kill at that point. And then he could have switched out, saved it for later, and Gligar would still be alive. So I think if he just had U-turn on his Gligar, then maybe we'd be looking at a different game. But you never know. I did like the Bandit Victini prep, though, because that just made sure that no matter how much Gothitelle set up, it was going to get smacked. Unless, he was running Barrier, which he very easily could have. I don't know. Does Arf have a Dark type? I'll need to check. But, yeah. So, anyway, we're going to move on to our number 15, which is the Washington Claw Inserts. APV got lost again. And kinda got he got Hazard stacked really early in the match and basically lost his Tapu Koko just to defog the hazards away, and L5 managed to get the hazards back up on APV's side of the field, basically rendering that sacrifice null and void, and he lost an offensive threat to L5's team. Granted, I think L5 had quite a lot of counters to it in Calm Mind defensive Latios, and a especially defensive Piloswine, but if APB would have managed to wear those down with things like Shaman, Terrakion, Slowking, he could have poked a giant hole in his team with the Tapu Koko, but that's hindsight. And, if he didn't have Hidden Power Ice, he couldn't hit Zygarde anyway. So, I guess Tapu Koko wasn't as necessary in this match, but still, he just lost, one of his big offensive threats early on. Nidoking, what happened with Nidoking halfway through the match is that Toxapex Nidoking came in, set up, absorbed the Toxic Spikes, and then went for Ice Beam twice, trying to predict anything else to come in, particularly Latios. And L5 stayed in twice, got big damage off on the Nidoking, and set up Toxic Spikes again, and then the turn APB goes for Earth Power, he switches into Latios. So that was just a 50-50 that APB just happened to lose 3 times in a row. So, yeah. And then Nidoking got knocked out and wasn't able to absorb the Toxic Spike, which eventually would have led to Shaman getting worn down on the late game, and L5 was just able to put APB into a situation where he could not win, and APB eventually just conceded the battle because he knew he couldn't win. Toxapex, once again on L5's part, just kind of won him a game. Because defensively, once Nidoking went down, once Terrakion, his probable Z move user, went down, Once Tapu Koko went down relatively early, he had enough speed to make sure he outsped Slowking and knocked that out with a knockoff. It's... L5, I think, has this season been one of the best users of Toxapex that I've seen, because I'm a very sketchy person on Toxapex. I feel like Toxapex is a bit too passive, but at the same time, I think since Gen 7, like, with the additions of Knockoff, and, like, it's just opened people's mind to using it a bit more, just with a couple new toys that it has, and Toxapex has been getting more accessible. Like, you see it if you watch GBA D-League. You've seen TTM Crobat for the win use it. I think he goes by Danza. Yeah, Danza. Use it to relative success. And Toxapex is just one of those Pokemon that if you can't break it, it's over. You lose. You need to make sure you can break it, and APB just didn't have anything to break it in the end. We'll move on to number 14 in the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I dropped Dougal to number 14 because I don't think Dougal has really been impressing as of late. Like, he got a win week 1, which I think was a 4-0, and then I think it was a 4-0, 4-0 or 3-0, and then since then, no offense to Dougal, I just feel like he has not been impressing as of late. Yes, I get that this win was kind of a little hacksy, and we'll get more to that when we get to Alex, but I feel like Dougal was in a losing position anyway, and the Calm-Mind Jirachi would have just came in and won after Cobalion went down anyway, because Drain Punch definitely wasn't knocking out Cobalion. And Cobalion, I think Cobalion probably would have set up on Mesprit anyway. Like, once Hoopa went down, there was really nothing to offensively stop that Jirachi from just going ham. And, I feel like Dougal, during, like, most of this game, was put on the back foot. He didn't bring his ground type, so I think Dougal has a ground type. I haven't checked the teams in a bit, but in a minute. So I don't remember everyone's team members at the top of my head. But I feel like Ampharos was just able to get Volt Switches off whenever it wants. And ran Rest, Sleep Talk, Volt Switch, Dragon Pulse. Which I think was a genius set on his part. Like, even though Sleep Talk Volt Switch is a bit of an odd pairing, like, you look at Dougal's team, he was slower than everything on the field. So he was always getting momentum with the Volt Switch anytime he pulled it, and Dragon Pulse was also free because Dougal didn't bring a fairy. So Dragon Pulse just kind of netted good damage on everything, and Volt Switch netted good damage on everything except the Roserade, and got him into something that could better handle the situation. So Alex, I think, very well controlled the pace of this match. In the early game, it was Dougal just needing to play his Starmie a certain way because Dougal was always getting rocks set up on his side of the field, and because he had a Talonflame, he needed those rocks gone. And Alex just always, and every time Starmie came in, he got a Volt Switch off on it. And eventually when Starmie went down, rocks went back up, Talonflame wasn't able to break because he brought a more defensive Salamence, I believe, that was able to take a +1, I think +1 after Intimidate, Supersonic Sky Strike, Hoopa was a weird set, but, you know, it could have worked. It could have worked, but it didn't, unfortunately, because of the flinch. Megalop was handled just throughout the match, just Alex was able to control Megalop, just had to switch around quite a bit to get Intimidate drops and everything. But eventually Megalop was handled, and Dougal just... Oh no, Megalop wasn't handled in the match. I think it was just Jirachi happened to be behind a sub in the late game, and it would have just gotten knocked out anyway. Like, he would have just ran through his team. So, yeah. He was able to handle the threat that was Megalop, stopped it from getting a lot of kills, and Megalop in the back wouldn't have been able to break, especially considering Jirachi was behind a sub. So, we'll have to see... We'll have to see if Dougal can bounce back. I just feel like recently he's been on a losing streak and he hasn't been able to recover. We'll see. Number 13 is the Philadelphia Scolopedes and Inversify. And I feel like this is another team that was on the back foot for a lot of the match. I think Inversify has been playing... Sorry if I voice cracked there. I think Inversify has been playing relatively well. I don't think there's anything wrong with the way he's been playing. I just think in this match, his threats got handled well, and Risepool just had really good prep for his team. Half 50% of the game is in preparations and building, and I think Risepool just did that well. I'll talk a bit more about it. The Golbat was pressured to do quite a bit of roles in this game, and it did fulfill those roles to an extent. Gliscor got put to sleep relatively early, which meant that his Toxicorp didn't activate, and he was forced to basically sack off a useless Gliscor. Very early in the game to Gardevoir, which... could have been a detriment because he could have gotten some sort of damage off before he died or done something more with that Gliscor. And I do think it is a bit of a questionable play to bring in Gliscor on a Moongus when you don't have a grass type. Odds are that thing's putting something to sleep. I'm surprised you didn't know that was coming. Or maybe you did and just thought Gliscor was the most useless member on the team. I'm not sure. But he lost his Gliscor relatively early. Infernape was mitigated throughout a lot of this match and didn't come in as often as it probably could have. It was a Life Orb Infernape, so I think maybe if he brought in Infernape a little bit more, then maybe the match would have gone a little bit differently. But he was never really able to position himself to where he could get Infernape in safely. So I understand him not wanting to make those plays to get Infernape in. But Infernape was the biggest threat to Risepool's team this game, and it got mitigated a lot. It was handled very well by Risepool and just was never allowed to really do anything. It got knocked down really low, and because it was Life Orb, it was wearing itself out with Flare Blitz, and Infernape was just not able to break. I feel like the real turning point of this match, though, was when Kyurem Black got knocked out by Heatran. And at that point, he just did not have a breaker. He had Infernape left, but he had Water Shuriken Gren in the back, which was guaranteed to knock that out, so Infernape was never going to be able to break. I don't think Greninja could knock out the Kyurem, though. The only thing that I think could knock out Kyurem at that point was Heatran on Risepool's side, and Gardevoir, but you had Golbat, and as Risepool revealed, I don't think he was packing the Psychic move on Gardevoir, so Golbat could have always pivoted into that thing. Granted, I guess he didn't know, but I'm sure Golbat could have eaten the Psychic move, and later on Golbat got tricked, so I'm not sure how useful Golbat would have been in the end game. As I'm saying it more, I think Golbat and Inverse 5's team was just handled well in this game by Rise Pool. So I think that's why I'm dropping Inverse by 2 spots. Anyway, we'll move on to number 12 and the Los Angeles Lookers. And Jared impressed me this week. He really did. I feel like him getting in the Life Orb Durant as often as he did really allowed him to just dent Ice's team. And Ice did not bring the Aurora Veil this week, which... Actually, as I'm looking at Jared's team, what did he really have to switch into Alolan Ninetales? Why didn't he bring Alolan Ninetales? I mean, I guess he had Tentacruel, but he didn't bring it. So, and I mean, Tentacruel would have gotten chipped down eventually, so I'm just curious. So, yeah, why didn't he bring up Ninetales? Why didn't he bring his Aurora Veil? He also didn't bring Zard X, which, I mean... Mega Bro does get foul play, and Mega Bro is one of the better switch-ins to Zard X. I don't even think it gets 2 a KO. Heck, maybe not even 3 a KO with how bulky that thing is. By Tough Claw's boosted Thunder Punch. And Mega Bro does get things like Foul Wave, Foul Play, T-Wave. So Mega Bro could have handled it. So I'm not surprised to see that he didn't bring Zard X. I'm surprised to see that he didn't bring Ninetales. Yeah, and actually, besides Mega Bro, I feel like Ice just prepped really weird this game, but Jarrett was able to take advantage of that and win the game with his very well played game. Like I said, just getting in Durant as often as he could. Just allowed him to put major holes into Ice's team. I feel like Raikou could have been maybe used a bit better on Ice's end, but Jarrett bringing Goodra basically meant that Ice wasn't able to use Raikou to its most effective usage. Sorry, I'm stumbling on my words here. I got like something caught in my throat, so I'm like trying to think and talk at the same time, and which is obviously what you do when you talk, but like I got something stuck in my throat and it's hard to form words because I need to take a drink like every 3 seconds. I'll try to calm down a bit and maybe pause for a second just to catch my breath. Sorry, I'm sure as you know, I haven't been feeling very well lately, so just bear with me for a little bit. Plus, this game isn't as fresh in my mind as the other ones because I watched this one 2 days ago, and I thought I remembered the events of it well enough, but even after watching it again, and I did watch it again today, I don't know why I said the last time I watched it was 2 days ago, not too much in the game really stood out other than the Lookers' usage of Durant to pivot in and get it in on doubles, and then just hit something really hard. Crunch for Bronzong, X-Scissor for neutral hits against pretty much everything except Lando. Iron Head, even after the Intimidate drop, 2-hit KO'd Landorus upon switching after Rocks. Clefable in this matchup was used very well to pivot into Suicune and stop it from doing its toxic substitute shenanigans. Licky was bulky, and yes, I realize I think Ice, the Licky did get flinched by an Iron Head, so that did stop it from throwing up a wish, but I feel like that just made the game faster. I feel like Ice was on the losing end of this game. He had nothing left to switch into Durant. He had really nothing left to handle Tornadus, and once Raikou was dealt with, like look, the Lookers and Jared just basically sacrificed his Tornadus to get rid of the Raikou. Like, Raikou was worn down a lot by Toxic. So he just popped the Z move on Tornadus, let it go down, because he realized, like, Raikou was really the only thing that could beat Slowbro. And once Slowbro, God, my words. Once Raikou went down, Slowbro was just free to kind of clean at the end. Licky wasn't there to absorb and then Wish Pass. Everything on Ice's team was at the point where he just lost the game. I feel like Jared has picked up a good win here, and let's hope it's the start of something special. Why did you say number 10? They're supposed to be number 11. Number 11 is the San Francisco Star Raptors, coached by Genius. Now, I do not want to spoil what happened in this game, so I'll talk about Genius a little bit more later. But let me just say, even though he lost, I did not feel right dropping him any lower than number 11. I will talk about Genius and Will's match later, because this is a spectacle, and I want to save it for a better time. I'll save it for a later segment, later on down the road, and we'll appropriately talk about this match in one glorious sitting. So we'll move on to number 10 in the Barcelona Bagons. Now, as I said, I did cover a lot of what I said about Ice's team in Jarrett's segment, but mostly, Lando T didn't come in very often, and if it was just packing Edgequake, Lando T could have done a large chunk to Jarrett's team. Licky was an annoying threat in that it could pivot and basically heal something up to almost full with its wishes. And Raikou plus Flame Orb Heracross did put in a lot of work to Jarrett's team, but the threats were mitigated by Durant. Tornadus was able to pivot in and get U-turn damage on Raikou. Raikou was worn down by Toxic. Heracross was not able to break enough, and in the end, Rotom Fan took out the Heracross. Licky was taken down by an unfortunate flinch, and Suicune, even though it was one of the better sets of Suicune, Jarrett did have some nice prep for it in Taunt, Encore, and basically during those taunts and encores was able to get his Mons healthy again, and then pivot to make sure Suicune did not have a sub, and that he could position himself to where Slowbro was in and he could get a Toxic off. Ice's team, I think, was good for the matchup. It was just handled very well by what Jarrett brought. And Jarrett took advantage of Ice's team, especially from the fact that he didn't have Aurora Veil. Nothing could take hits from Durant because the Aurora Veil was not up. And Ice, I think, lost this match in prep. Jarrett just had so many good utility moves to make sure that Suicune, which I think was Ice's win con in the late game, was mitigated. Heracross wasn't able to break, and Raikou, I think, which was a bulky Assault Vest set, because it took absolutely nothing from a Z Supersonic Sky Strike from Tornadus. Got worn down really quickly. I just think Ice just kind of got worn down and lost. It was just as simple as that. Ice got worn down and lost because Jarrett just bulked out his team and brought in Durant whenever was needed. So number 9, we got the Jacksonville Jellicents. Speaking of bulk, he didn't really bring that bulky of a team this week. I mean, he had enough bulk to rely on in Ampharos, Tangrowth, and I think Salamence was slightly bulky, but he didn't bring the full stall team that I'm used to seeing, that I would think I would see from Alex's point of view, and I think he's gotten good with that, like bringing more balance to bulky offense rather than the stall route that I assumed we were going to get from Alex. And I think he's been doing very well in this. I think in this respect, he has been playing his games really well. He brought a team that just took advantage of Dougal's. Ampharos, like I said earlier, was able to get free Volt switches on his entire team. Landorus, once Mespert went down, could have just clicked Earthquake, and Talonflame wasn't a switch in because, Landorus gets so much rock coverage, and all it would take is one prediction, and Talonflame was useless. Cobalion pivoting in and getting up rocks, and I didn't know Cobalion got Serene Grace. I did not know Cobalion got Serene Grace. We should move that up a tier next season. When you get 4 flinches in a row in the late game with just a 30% chance Ironhead, you know something's wrong. But I don't think the flinches... Why I'm moving Alex up such a large margin is because I think he's been playing so well lately that I don't think he deserves to be, in the lower rankings. I feel like he has just been playing so well with this team that I actually thought, I'm not afraid to say it, I thought it was hot garbage when I first saw it. I thought this team was going to get mollywopped, but he's been proving me wrong. Oh, hey, my friend wants to know what's up. Not sure if you saw that, but recording on my tablet means that you get to see any messages that might need my attention. I'll talk to him when I'm done. So, and then in the end, Calm Mind Rachi. I'll talk about Alex's performances more later, but let's just wrap up what I think was good about the match. Calm Mind Rachi was really good this matchup, and once Talonflame went down and Hoopa got chunked, I don't think Alex was trying to. I don't think Alex was trying to 1v1 the Hoopa with flinches. Then again, Ironhead is a move that has a good probability to flinch. I think he just wanted enough damage to the point where Jirachi could come in and flash cannon that thing down, which I think was a successful plan. Even if after the Drain Punch, Hoopa wasn't in range for another Ironhead, it would have been in range of a flash cannon, and Jirachi would have just ended up sweeping anyway. That's my interpretation of how the end game would have gone. I don't think the flinches ended Dougal's game. I think Dougal would have lost to Calm Mind Rachi in the late game anyway. And the way he was pivoting, was able to pivot around Mega Lopunny the one time it was out during the game, to make sure that he didn't really lose a Mon, and to make sure that he could get Mega Ampharos in safely to the point where it wasn't 2-hit KO'd. And just to be able to pivot around that threat, I think Alex has been improving a lot. His prep has stepped up, his play has stepped up, and I think he's using this team in a way that I didn't think he could. I didn't think this team could be used as good as he has been using it. Yeah, I know he's 2-2, but ever since that 6-0 in the early season, he stepped up his game. He got a win over Risepool, who I I think of his abilities really highly. And he's shown that, like, and to be fair, I think his early schedule, like, he faced L5 and someone else that I praised a lot. He faced, like, coaches that I have in the top 5 for the power rankings, so I think his early schedule is really hard, but not only did he beat Risepool, he's shown that he's able to put on really strong performances. It's impressive. I want more. Go, Alex. I think you can do well. He's proved me wrong. We'll move on to number 8 and the Toronto Weezings. And this is an awkward game to talk about. Okay, on Daniel's side, he lost Gengar very early. But to be fair, once Gengar... actually, no. Gengar, like, if it was just 4 attacking moves, Focus Blast. I think perfect coverage for this team would have been Focus Blast, Shadow Ball, either Icy Wind or... I mean, I guess he would have been missing... Actually, no. Focus Blast, Sludge Wave, Thunderbolt, Icy Wind. Because that would have allowed him to hit literally everything on Zhao's team. And Gengar could have been such a good coverage mod in this game. But the bulky monster that is Kamala took a Z all-out pummeling, ate it for breakfast, and then knocked out Gengar with an Earthquake. That early on set Daniel back, but I think he could have pulled through. He was able to get Zhao's team, get away the things that I think, spoilers, that I think could eat a hit from Weavile, and he was slowly getting them out of the way. And I think the game was about even until Celesteela set up. He did a good job of bringing in Entei and then scouting for the Z move, because he knew Entei could live any one hit, especially after Stealth Rocks. After the Stealth Rock and Spike were up on Zhao's side of the field, he knew that everything was likely in range for a Weavile attack. I will get on to the likely part later on, but none of that matters when Zhao crits you with an Earthquake. Now, I won't immediately say that crit lost Daniel the game. Well, obviously it lost Daniel the game, but I won't immediately say that meant if without the crit Daniel would have won. But I think there was a chance. I think the game would have gotten a lot more dicey without the crit. Like, if Zhao wasn't packing Choppleberry, which he probably was now that I'm thinking about it, but if he wasn't packing Choppleberry, Tyranitar died to a low kick. If he wasn't Scarfed Azelf, which he might not have been, who knows, and because Stealth Rock was up, if he was a Focus Sash Azelf, that didn't matter. That tied to a knockoff. Probably even a Pursuit, honestly. And Pre-Marina, depending on the set, would have died to a Poison Jab. This match would have gotten, I think, a lot more dicey and would have depended on sets, spreads. You could theoremon a lot about this match just because I don't like games that rely on theoremoning in order to find the outcome of what would have happened during the game without a certain event of hacks. So you'll see later on how this affects my thought process upon ranking the teams. I don't want to knock Daniel down too bad, but he is on a 2-game losing streak, so I do have to drop him a little bit. And he was down 4-2 at the time, and it did rely on Zhao's sets being certain ways in order for Weavile to win in the late game. So I can't necessarily say that without the crit, he would have won. But we'll talk more about that when we get to Zhao. Number 7 is the Anaheim Altarias. Now, like I said earlier, oh god, I put the wrong picture, but you can still see the matchup, just not from Ace's side. Ace was able to just defensively run through Arf's team, I think. Like, Bandit Victini could have been a major problem for Ace, but one, he did have Gigalith, which was a really good switch into that, and two, he also had Tapu Fini, which would have forced him to predict and go for Bolt Strike, which then he could have pivoted into Excadrill, and, you know, that sort of stuff. He had a Calm Mind Gothitelle, which we all know how much of a pain in the ass Gothitelle is to handle when you have to prep for it. I've lost to Gothitelle before, and I know how much a pain in the booty that thing is. Tapu Fini was able to taunt in Nature's Madness the Ferrothorn, which is supposed to be a counter to that thing. Granted, I don't think you should have went for spikes on the Tapu Fini, because once you see Nature's Madness, you can probably predict that that thing's going to have taunt when you have a Ferrothorn, which is like 70% utility. So, yeah. And, you know, the Ground DMC Excadrill could have won the game in the late game if Ferrothorn hadn't been able to recover up as much as it had. But he still basically sacked off his Excadrill to make sure that Ferrothorn was out of the way later for things like Gothitelle, Mega Kang, so that it didn't have to predict and go for Fire Blast at any point. Tapu Fini defensively. Hydreigon to just spam Specs Dark Pulse, or just, after Altaria was gone, I could have just dropped a Draco and secure that I get a kill every single time it comes in. Offensively, Specs Hydreigon. Ground DMZ Excadrill. Offensive Mega Kangaskhan with Fire Blast. Arf had, like, nothing to, like, without pivoting into Victini enough times, he didn't really have enough to break through the bulk of Ace. And with Ace's offense, he didn't really have enough to switch in. His best switch in to Hydreigon, with the way he prepped Mega Altaria, couldn't even switch in twice after Rocks. Like, it got straight to a KO. It took like 44% upon switching. What is that Hydreigon, and where can I buy one? I never thought I'd see the day where Hydreigon can plow through a Mega Altaria. So, yeah. I think Ace just had, like, the perfect team for this matchup. Again, we're in a position where Ace should be higher. A lot of these teams should be higher than the way that they're ranked. But the top 7, even the top 8, and if Alex keeps playing the way he is, the top 9, a lot of these teams are just getting so tightly packed that it's hard to rank them. And my goodness, I was sitting there ranking these teams for like a solid 45 minutes to an hour. Just these top 7 teams. With Ace, I just said, okay, he was number 8 last week. Because nobody had a major drop, I'm just going to move him up 1. But, like, I don't know, that doesn't seem fair because he's been playing very well too. But, like, a lot of these changes don't really seem fair. I mean, look at who's number 6. He's 3-1 plus 14. Also, that logo. There, you finally have a logo. Are you happy? I'm happy. Look at that logo. By the way, I'm also doing logo commissions on the side. if you want to support your boy Ian, just go ahead and look at the commission sheet down below. But while you're at it, support me on Patreon and GoFundMe. I could really use money. Not for any particular reasons, I'm just broke. Besides that, L5, he's 3-1 plus 14, and he's number 6. This is an actual travesty of justice. I feel so bad. Then again, maybe you deserve to be number 6 for running Stealth Rock Mega Pinsir twice in a row. Especially when you had Pilliswine on the team. But I really do understand it. I mean, Icicle Crash and Earthquake hits everything on APP's team. Like, you kind of need an ice move to catch Shaman on the switch-in. And once Shaman went down, like, you see APP's team, everything gets hit by an Earthquake. Heck, Slowking couldn't even 1v1 Pillow without a special defense drop. Pillow took like 50% from a Scald at -1 Spadef. But again, L5, Zygarde never even need to hit the field. The Calm Mind recover Lottie could have 1v1 things like Tapu Koko. The Slowking if it didn't have Dragon Tail. I'm sure it was made to be faster than Terrakion. Depending on Spadef drops, it could have 1v1 Shaman. After enough Calm Mind boost, it probably wasn't even 2 KO'd by Nidoking. Because it was Refresh, it wouldn't have gotten 1v1 by Registeel. That thing was nasty versus this team. Mega Pinsir could have done a lot, and it could have done like some good damage in this game. The only reason it really wasn't allowed to do anything was just because Slowking Dragon Tailed it in while rocks were still up, and with Registeel as healthy as it was, Mega Pinsir was not going to be able to do anything, so he was kind of forced to sack it just to get up rocks and a little bit of return chip damage. But Scarf Reckless Hitmonlee took out Terrakion, which at that point was the biggest threat to L5's team. So there's that. Yeah, L5 got another 5. He's gotten 2 6-0s and a 5-0 as his wins, and he's number 6. God. I mean, I guess the real reason why he's number 6 is because he's done this, and it's because he's 6-0'd a team that I have at he's 6-0'd a team that I previously had at number 14, 15, even 16, I think, at one point in the Jacksonville Jellicents. He's 6-0'd ARF and 5-0'd APV. Those 3, at one point, and even currently, have been in the bottom 3 of my power rankings. And the one loss he's had is from someone in the top 5 of my power rankings. I mean, obviously, you know he's in the top 5 at this point. So I guess that's why I can justify him being at number 6. But, you know, if he keeps putting on performances like this, it doesn't matter who he's going against. I'll have to move him up. And, you know, the top 5 are so closely knit that I had to make decisions like this. This one hurts. So the top 5, since they were so close and so well and so, like, interchangeably close, I tried to look at this, like, aside from one person who is specifically at his spot because of how he's performed in the past, everyone else I needed to look at from an objective point of view and say, okay, who do I think had the most convincing win this week? And who do I think had the least convincing win this week? So number 5 to number 2 are ranked like that, and that's why number 5 is Zhao. Because Zhao, realistically, he won. He does not deserve a -2 drop. He is only in this spot because of the way I had to rank these teams in order to be somewhat satisfied with the rankings. But even now I'm looking at it and I kind of hate myself. Because Zhao won. But like I said earlier, this game got really sketchy in the late game. Like, Zhao would have needed to... Would have not... If without the crit, would not have... Unless he, dodged a Sacred Fire. But even that's hacks in of itself, too. Would have not only lost to Celesteela, but something would have been forced to take a hit from Entei. Now, let's say he does turn out to be something like Scarfed Azelf. Then he would have been forced to take an Extreme Speed. Because Scarfed Azelf with Hidden Power Fighting could have knocked out Weavile. But if it was forced to take an Extreme Speed, it could have been knocked into Life Orb Ice Shard range. And I ran if he had to take a hit on Primarina, let's assume that his Primarina was max HP, max defense. After a hit from Entei, it would have been knocked into Poison Jab range. And if he wasn't specifically that set, Poison Jab killed Primarina after Stealth Rocks and Spikes. And like I've said, if he wasn't Choppleberry Tyranitar, he would have died to a low kick. And after Stealth Rock, Spikes, and any hit from Entei, it would have probably been in low kick range anyway. So, this game gets very sketchy when you look at it from that way. Zhao didn't really misplay a lot this game. I mean, taking out Gengar early was good. Pivoting around Cobalion was good. He dealt with Chestnut pretty decently. And Celesteela did get a sweep late game, but the crit just makes it hard to appreciate the little efforts that Zhao went through in this game when that just kind of puts everything in a hard retrospective light. Like I said, I don't like games that force you to Theorymon. So that's why I think he's number 5 this week. If he gets another win, and, if the top 5 teams win again, I'll have to do this again next week. So Zhao could just randomly jump back out to number 2. Like, Zhao is only a number 5 for this week specifically. Like, unless he loses again, then he might have to just stay at number 5 or move down slightly. But, you know what I mean? He's only here because he has to be. In order for my brain to just be like, okay, this is fine. Okay, so we'll go to number 4, and that's the SC Poplio. And I'll do the number 3 team while I'm at it, which is Chicago Caracostas, his opponent. This game was fun. This game was so funny to watch. Like, I think these two people are so close in skill and performance to this point that they've both been doing so well. And it's like, you can really interchange them. Omega's basically number 3 because he won. And David is number 4 because he lost. But I think this game was really close, and both people played to the best of their abilities. Like, Omega got was Zoroark turn 1, took huge damage on his Uxie, and was forced to sack his Sneasel, which, was his Dark Resist. Granted, Sneasel did basically take out the Zoroark with it, so I guess it was worth. Actually, it was definitely worth, because Specs Zoroark would have just probably gotten another kill later on in the game. I'm sorry, I'm giggling. Then we get to the Garchomp potential mini sweep of it getting behind a sub on Rotom's Willow, and then setting up And, under Charizard Wise Sun, I don't think Hydro Pump broke the sub. So David did something kind of ingenious and yet kind of not. So I believe at this point, he had Ice Shard. He did not have Ice Shard on his Donphan. But Omega did not know that. So he defogs away the rocks and then sacks off his Amistar to the Garchomp's Outrage. Now, Garchomp is locked into Outrage. David goes for EQ. Which breaks the sub. Because Omega doesn't... Sorry, my brain just blanked for a second there. Because Omega does not know he has the Ice Shard, he switches. And David, who I believe did know he didn't have the Ice Shard, was like... And, because Garchomp was confused because he got the 2-turn Outrage, he said, okay, if he hits me, I die. If he smacks himself, he dies. So he just straight up says, okay, I'm just gonna set up rocks in a +4 Garchomp's face. He removed hazards and set up hazards in a +4 Garchomp's face. I know, there were certain stipulations behind that play, but that's just so funny to me. I loved that. I laughed when I watched that. He just switches out. The Donphan just fearlessly sets up rocks. Also, there was a point in the game where Omega had a 12% Coma-O in front of him, and I don't think Coma-O had hit the field yet, and Omega had already dented the Zoroark so hard, and he just is like, I'm gonna click Psychic on this thing, and Zoroark, and it was Zoroark, and the chat just went insane. I've had moments like that too. I'm not gonna blame Omega too much. It's just, come on, really? That was just really funny. I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, what a bad player, what a horrible player. But my God, that was just funny. The brain fart I'm sure he must have felt. Oh my God. All right, I guess I'll just say one last thing. Magic had a +1/+1 Como. With what was left, could have won the game. Mega Arrow, I think, is at 75% after rocks. The Como goes for Thunder Punch on the Mega Aerodactyl, and it lived. Como is an unmon. No, but seriously, I'm sure that arrow had so much bulk investment in it, but my God, just to eat that hit from a +1 super effective move. God damn, I love Mega Arrow. I think it's one of my favorite Megas to draft. I love that thing. This match was a delight to watch. And even though David lost, I don't think he deserves to get dropped. He only lost 2 spots. And this match was very close in the late game. I don't think either of these people misplayed. Except, the Psychic on Como, but it didn't really cost Omega anything to do that. It didn't cost Omega the match going for Psychic on Como, and I even like Magic's reaction of just okay, is there some greater plan here, or are you just that dumb? You deserve to keep your spot. You should probably be number 3 just for that alone. That was funny. Here, you're keeping the You're keeping the number 4 slot, but I'm going to move you ahead of Omega just for that comment. You're still number 4, but you're ahead of him just because of that. So anyway, we'll move to number 2 and the Rhine Valley Guardians. I'm still recording it. And Rise Pool, I think, had the most impressive win out of the 5-2 teams. I think his win was great. Like, I think he was... Oh, what is that Gardevoir doing? Anyone else see that? That Gardevoir is looking the wrong way. It is looking right at the Greninja. That's a male Gardevoir, too. It looks like it's spanking that Greninja. Oh, God. I'm going to need to get rid of this video. I do not want to get demonetized. Hey, boys. You want to see my Mega Evolution? Oh, God, that was horrible. I am never doing that again. I am never doing that again. But yeah, I think his win was super... Oh god, I actually really needed that image though. Like, I'm gonna need to bring that back because that image is like a framing device for me to see like the teams and to just remember what happened on this match. Just, oh god, I'm so sorry you had to hear that. What is wrong with me? So, I think Rise Pool had the best played game out of the teams. Like, I think the Scarfed Heatran to catch the threats of Infernape, Kyurem Black especially, just to catch that thing with a Scarf Flash Cannon and knock it out of the game was just so good on his part. The utility Mega Guard I liked to catch the Scizor upon switch in with a Will-O-Wisp and to wish up, and its only coverage being Hyper Voice, which outside of Mega Scizor it does hit everything, and he has a Heatran. The defensive Amoonguss that took a Bullet Punch into an Aerial Ace, which was cool tech on Inverse's part, but then it just ended up getting put to sleep. The Scarfed Rotom, and then Swampert, just to be a rocks machine. Greninja with the double water coverage to make sure Scarfed and Infernape did not get out of hand. I just think Rise Pool just had the best prep and the best played game out of the 4 teams, because I think his victory was the most dominant and left the least amount of questions answered. Because at least with the Omega David game, like, it came down to that Thunder Punch on Como. If Como either got the roll or or that arrow was not that specific spread, then Magic won that game. With Zhao, the crit kind of spoiled the ending, if I can just say that. But with this one, I think this leaves the least amount of questions answered. So for this week at least, Rise Pool gets the raise to number 2. Now, our number 1 is the New England Pidgeots. And I'm not going to lie, this is mostly because he was number 1 last week. And yes, okay, I'm going to get this out of the way before we talk about the actual match. I was not willing to move Will down because of this game. Because I've seen how good of a player Will is firsthand. I've seen him do well with this team. He has beaten a top-ranked team in the Chicago Caracostas. He has played consistently well. He has used this team consistently well. And I know he's a better battler than this game showcased, and I think this game showcased the worst side of Pokemon. And I know Will didn't want to win this way. I know Genius didn't want to lose this way. Oh, wait, hang on, this is the wrong picture. There we go. I like I was saying, I know Will didn't want to lose this way. I didn't want to win this way. I know Genius didn't want to lose this way. But I was not willing to dethrone Will from his number one spot over something that he had absolutely no control over. I know that I say Zhao's and that Zhao's credit, that Zhao's win cost him the number 3 spot, but that was just because the number 5 to number 2 teams were all 3-1, all very close in differential, all played opponents of very high battling caliber. I just think that in the end, Zhao's performance out of those 4 teams was the weakest this specific week. This one, the number 1 ranked team, has yet to be defeated and has also been putting on consistently good performances. Even though his wins have been low differential, I don't think they've been necessarily bad wins either. So, I was not willing to drop Will off of a bad game. I'm just going to say this right now. This was a bad game. It was kind of funny in retrospect after watching the battle the 3rd or the 4th time to make sure that I could fully comprehend everything that happened. But this was a bad game. And it didn't really represent what either player's skill was, but it did represent the dark side of Pokemon. Now, turn 1. I believe it was a Specs Zapdos or an offensive Zapdos to some degree. Turn 1, full para on the Mew. Mew got to a KO to take it out of the game turn 1. Next turn, Victory Bell comes in. Will switches into Muck on a Sleep Powder. Then Genius switches into Dragonite on the Muck, and then sets up a Dragon Dance. And then not only does Will get the first turn wake, he clicks Ice Punch and gets the freeze, breaking the Dragonite's multi-scale and taking that out of the game. The Dragonite never unthawed throughout the game. By the way, since Genius is running a Sun team, really shouldn't frozen Pokemon thaw in Sun? That's just something I think should be a gameplay mechanic. And that would have at least allowed Genius to try to save his Dragonite. So then, Genius was forced to improvise. He sends in his Scolipede, sets up all the hazards he can. Actually, no. I think he sends in Torkoal, gets up rocks, and then goes Scolipede and sets up all the hazards he can. Goes in Torkoal, sets up rocks, and then... No, actually, goes in Torkoal, sets up rocks, and then misses a Will-O-Wisp and gets Poison Touch poisoned off a knockoff from Muck. Scolipede comes in, sets up as many spikes as he can, endeavors the Muck down to 1 HP. And then Muck was taken out by... And then Muck, I believe, was taken out by a Flame Charge from Mega Houndoom. Then Gallade came in, and Genius wasn't willing to go for the... wasn't willing to stay in, so he switches out, sacks off Torkoal, gets a Victory Bell, KOs with a Weather Ball crit. I don't think the crit mattered, but at that point, who gives a shit? Honestly. And then the Whimsicott comes in, and I will say, the fucking balls on Will to fake the Stun Spore and go for Trick Room. I don't even know what that play was. I don't know if it was brilliant, if it was stupid, somewhere in between, just really ballsy, a misclick. I don't know what that was, but it was great. Like, Trick Room Whimsicott. That was funny. Oh God, I'm really looking forward to the interview with Will, because my God, this guy is crazy sometimes. And in the end game, Scarf Diggersby, which I'm pretty sure Will has brought every week. Just because Scarf Diggersby, I've used Diggersby before. Diggersby's great. And then Scarf Diggersby just kind of came in. I will say, Will actually could have lost this match if either Mega Houndoom killed with Flame Charge or got a Flame Charge crit. But we all know, if Mega Houndoom went for Flame Charge on that Zapdos, it was getting static parried. We all know that. And, you know, I'm pretty sure Will was confident that he wasn't going to win in the end, that he wasn't going to lose in the end game anyway. And, yeah, I want to see a better win next week if you do win, Will. Because I know you're not going to go on a 6-game losing streak now with your skill. It's just, I feel dirty watching this game. And I almost feel guilty keeping him at number 1 because he won this way. But like I said before, this isn't Will's skill. This isn't how Will usually wins his games. This is just Pokemon at its worst. And I'm not going to knock Will for it. So that's the power rankings. Week 5 coming next week, and we'll do some coach interviews too, because we are officially, after week 5, past the halfway point. Woo! My God. And hopefully I won't be sick. GG's, everyone. Ian's out. Peace.